First amplifier up is the sub-amplifier, the KMA 801. This amplifier, if you're familiar with Kicker, is built off of the CS 800.1, the yellow version of it. This one is green. There are a couple differences which we'll take a look at, but right away the most obvious one is this one comes with the bass knob. That's a $30 value. This amplifier does cost more than the regular 800.1, but it does include the bass knob, and also this circuit board is conformal coated, which is an added value. Even though it's going in a car, it locks all those components nice and tight on the circuit board. Vibration, dust, it's going on the rear wall. If he leaves his rear window open, we're not gonna have to worry about any of those things with these two amplifiers. All Kicker amplifiers come with a burst certificate. This one tapped out at 897 watts. Inside the side pocket here is the bass knob. Side of the other side pocket is the wire for the bass knob. This uses a standard 1/8" headphone jack style bass knob. In the bottom of the box is some screws, an Allen head, and the basics for wiring the amplifier up, as well as the gain power sheet. This sheet here will tell you what voltage output to set your amplifier to if you don't have some form of oscilloscope or distortion detector. For example, this is an 800 watt amplifier. We will be running it at 1 ohm. If I come over to 800 watts, come down to 1 ohm, that's 28.28 volts of output that I can set this amplifier to. Like so many amplifiers nowadays, this one is tiny. It is 8 1/16 by 6 11/16 by 2 5/16 tall. Located on the power end, 4-gauge ground, remote, 4-gauge power. This has 4 speaker terminals. It is still a mono amplifier. That means that it doesn't matter which positive and which negative you hook up to. It's just there for convenience. We're putting 2 subwoofers in, therefore we can run 2 wires out. That feature is something that stumps a lot of you guys. This is a continuity tester. When they're touching, they make a noise. If I go to this amplifier's positive terminals, it makes a noise because it's actually just one bus behind it. The negative terminals, if I have an amplifier that just has a positive and negative output and I need to branch that off to 2 or 4 speaker cups, it can be more difficult to do. I have to like cobble these wires together to put them into the inputs of the amplifier. This is just easier. On the other side of the amplifier, I have my 2 inputs and I have 2 outputs. The reason why it does that, if the source unit I have may only have a single set of outputs, or it might only have a front zone, rear zone, or a front and a rear, I can run one of the RCAs into here, the input, and then have it come out and go off to my other amplifier. There'll be no crossover applied. It will be a full range output. It allows me to just loop in the sub amp. This will do high level and low level by pushing in the switch. When doing high level, this uses DC offset. That'll turn that feature on. So if this is pushed in, you don't need to hook up a remote turn on. It'll just look at the high level input coming into it here and turn on the amplifier automatically. If you're using another amplifier in the chain that doesn't have that capability, you can use the remote turn on this to go off and power that amplifier up. Gain control, crossover between 50 and 200, and a 0 to 6 dB bass boost. Remote bass knob has this little plastic cover over it in case you're not gonna run it. Protect and power lights. The next amp up is our highs amplifier, is the KMA 606 6-channel amplifier. I wish they made this in the regular line. I understand why they don't, but I also don't understand why they don't. Because it's a Kicker 6-channel amplifier that most people just gloss over because they don't think to look into the marine line. Like I said, those added features of conformal coated circuit board really make this a great amplifier because it's dust, it's intrusion, it has all the things that we really want in an amplifier because, well, people are messy and people have accidents and people do things. Yes, we want those same things in our cars. This amplifier tapped out at 644 watts. If you noticed on the other amplifier, it has this big sticker on it that says, "Stop, please do not return product to store. Kicker Tech Support can assist you," and it lists their phone number. Make sure to follow this. Both of the end caps for this, they have nothing. In the bottom of the box, very similar piece of paper to the other one. We got an Allen screw, we got a couple screws. We have, of course, the thank you for purchasing, a QR code to download the full menu online, as well as on the back it has that same power rating chart to set your gains. This is where I know most you guys are going to like freak out. And the reason for that is, yes, these two amplifiers match because they're green. Putting them together, that'll keep most of you guys happy. However, if you were to take this amplifier, this 6-channel, put it next to the yellow one, some of you out there might lose your minds. That's okay, I totally understand. I'm with you. That's why we have the 800 that matches this. Maybe one day Kicker will take my advice and we'll get a yellow version of this to match all of their other amplifiers. For those of you that want an 8-channel amplifier, believe it or not, Kicker still makes that as well in the Marine line. I know, just it hurts my head sometimes. Looking at the side of the amplifier, we have amp 1, 2, 3 left and right inputs, high level to low level input on and off, and then input selector. This can be connected to where input 1 left and right are all that you need, or inputs 1 and 2 left and right are all that you need, or of course the way we're going to be running it with 6 inputs. When they're pushed in, this will allow these inputs to work on their own. When they're pushed out, it's going to look to the previous input for its signal. Amp gain 1 is located here with the crossover. The high pass filter goes up to 200 Hertz. Amplifier 2 gain and frequency are a clone. Amplifier 3 is located here across the bottom. You can use this amplifier as a 5-channel amplifier if you want, or the 6-channel like we're gonna use it. Your gain control is located here. Your crossover, if you're asking where the switch is for turning the high pass crossover off for amp 1 and amp 2, if you turn the crossover knob all the way to the left, it says off. This is a unique feature you've probably never seen before, but the crossover goes from off to 200 Hertz. Back to amplifier 3, our high pass crossover is between 50 and 200 Hertz, and then we also have a bass boost that can be turned all the way to 0, which is where we'll be leaving it. There's a protect and power light on this end as well. Flipping the amplifier over to the other side, we have the same 4-gauge ground, remote, and 4-gauge power input, and then we have really big, they almost look like 10-gauge style inputs for our amplifier. It is broken into amplifier 1, amplifier 2, and amplifier 3. Across the top are all the positives, across the bottom are all the negatives. The first one is left, then right, then left, then right, then left, then right. When you're putting the speaker wires in, that means all across the top here will be all the positives, and then these will be all the negatives, which should make it easy at a glance to look at and figure out if you've accidentally done something wrong. These are the two amplifiers that are going in the car. One thing to keep in mind when putting an amplifier behind a seat, chances are good no one is ever going to see it. When putting products in a car, it is more important to install them correctly for the vehicle than whether or not the logo is done properly. And what I mean by that is all the power is on these sides of the amplifier. We want those to go down the driver's side of the car. That means that these amplifiers are probably going to sit like this inside of the vehicle, but just keep that in mind. It is more important to have this done properly than to have this done properly. We can always put a badge over this if need be,